Thank you so much for joining us again for Workspace Spark. This time we have, she's back. It's not our first time. Kanika Tolver has been with us before. We had such rave reviews from her book that we wanted to bring her back. So I'm going to read her short bio and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Kanika Tolver is the CEO and founder of Career Rehab, LLC in Washington, D.C., where she helps clients transform their careers with coaching programs, events, webinars, and digital resources to help people reach their career goals. An in-demand coach, consultant, speaker, and thought leader, she has been featured on CNN, CNBC, CBS Radio, Yahoo, Black Enterprise, Glassdoor.com, Entrepreneur.com, The Washington Post, and a variety of radio interviews and podcasts, and also at Workspace Spark. Kanika is the author of the acclaimed title, Career Rehab, Rebuild Your Personal Brand and Rethink the Way You Work, which I absolutely love the book. When I got it last year, I was in transition, so it was like perfect timing. So Kanika, thank you so much for being with us again today.
Thank you for having me back. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I read your bio, but please just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Kanika, as you guys already know. I am from the Washington, D.C. area. I have spent over 15 years in the technology industry. So I primarily have worked in the federal government tech space and private sector. I also, in my spare time, am, hosting Twitter spaces on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. I really enjoy helping the community, helping Black women, as you see, Black women in tech here. So I really enjoy writing content about personal branding. And I am a wife, and, I just really enjoy spending time with my family.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, what made you write the book, Career Rehab?
Career rehab came at a point in time in my life when I was actually checking myself into career rehab in 2014, when I was going through different challenging career transitions myself. I was working in an environment that was very toxic. I had 4 managers within a 5-year period. There was a high turnover rate within my organization. I really was at a point where I wanted to leave, but I was scared because I had been in the federal government space for so long. So I decided to check myself into career rehab and kind of work on my personal brand, work on the skill sets that I didn't really have so I could transition into private sector. So then I transitioned into private sector. And I started to career coach people. I started to write resumes for people in the Washington, D.C. area. And then people were getting all of this success. So I started to just, say that, hey, my company and the things that I do is going to be for my career rehabbers. And those became my clients that landed jobs at Fortune 500 companies and government jobs. So that's kind of how I started career rehab. I tested out the things that were working well for me on myself first, and then I tested it out on my clients.
Love it. It's also always interesting to hear how businesses get started and what brings you there. And it always starts with us helping and then realizing that it's something that's a need, right? Typically it's something that we deal with. There's probably other people that need the same thing.
For sure. So it was a reinvention of my own career brand, and it really resonated with so many other people that I was helping. So I decided to write a book about it so I could help more people, outside of, the DC area that I live in the DMV, as we call it.
And it's a really great book, practical, great tips and steps that we can do to rehab our careers. So let's talk about quiet quitting. So now a buzz term, but in your book, Career Rehab, you talked about fearlessly but softly resigning from your job. Did you foresee this shift in the workplace?
No, I didn't, because my book came out before the pandemic, pretty at the start of the pandemic. So I was writing my book all of 2019, and then we got hit with the pandemic in 2020. So of course I was completely shocked that all of these things were happening in the economy. And then as we fast forward to this year, people started to talk about quiet quitting. I think quiet quitting has been around for some time. I just think that people just labeled it during the pandemic because of all of the things that people were dealing with their employers. People were way more transparent about them not feeling empowered at work, not, losing engagement. And I think that that came due to the fact that we weren't going into the office. We were working from home. So I think that there has been employees that have been quietly quitting for some time. And I just think I think I would call it more so like, due to lack of satisfaction at work. And maybe it's a generational thing because I'm kind of a millennial, kind of on the cuff as a Gen Xer / millennial. I think that we're seeing this quiet quitting trend more with the younger generation as you look at content online like TikTok or YouTube. The older generation would not, probably maybe the baby boomers or Gen X's probably wouldn't call it quietly quitting, because I look at quiet quitting as like, hey, I'm going to do my job. I'm only going to do what I'm told to do. I'm kind of like falling back from being engaged with my team, with my manager. But I wanted to say that it's really the leadership's responsibility to some degree to have those tough conversations when they start to see the lack of performance with employees.
Yeah.
And I think we blame the employees for calling that, or we blame the younger generation for saying that they're going to start quietly quitting and they're not going to do what's outside of their job description. I think that those conversations have always been had in the past. When we think about, I'm going to HR because this is not in my job description, that's quietly quitting. When we wanted our job description rewritten for some reason because we felt like we weren't getting paid, we were doing more than what we were told to do, people are just tired of extending themselves. And I look at quiet quitting more like creating boundaries for yourself in the workplace. And if you feel like it's not serving you anymore, you should look for another job. But if you don't want to expose yourself to doing things that are not what you signed up for, I find that to be more of a boundary setting than it being a negative thing. But other generations, they feel like you're supposed to do everything that's in your job description and all of the duties assigned. And I don't agree with that.
Agreed. Such a great, I'm on the cusp as well. And, the first time ever, we have all these generations working together with so many different work ethics. I think we can learn from the young people though, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. The term quiet quitting is so negative. I understand it. It's definitely boundaries and it's definitely needed because you do have a boss or people who could be overworking you and not respecting your boundaries. It's just such a negative word sometimes when it's said. It sounds
I
like
think the word quit,
yes.
or I think the word quiet is like a positive and a negative put together, which still equals a negative.
Yeah.
So I think that the word quit, it makes people feel like that they've given up on their ability to show up and to do a good job. Where I look at it is as if maybe if employers are completely engaged with their employees on a regular basis, they would be able to have those conversations. But then people felt like they were just extremely overworked throughout the entire pandemic, and they were extended beyond, just because they wasn't going into the office, people felt like they was extended beyond the 40-hour work week rule. So, I think there's two ways to look at it. And I understand why leaders are concerned about it. I really do understand that. So
Yeah, I think you said it best, right? An engaged leader will recognize when someone's quietly quitting.
yeah.
An engaged leader will help to empower people to feel safe and comfortable in talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like that, you're probably not with an engaged leader. And it may be time to go. There's another piece of that, of staying in jobs that no longer serve us. So
Yeah. So fearlessly resigning definitely was something that I just said, you should just basically get over the fear of leaving a job that you've been in for a long period of time. And you have to, I think when the Great Resignation came out, I think fearlessly resigning or fearless resignations was kind of in alignment with the Great Resignation trend. So that's kind of like where I felt like, oh, I didn't really foresee the Great Resignation era coming, but I think fearless resignation and Great Resignation, they're kind of like the same thing.
Yeah, you were ahead of your time. You didn't even know.
Yeah, I didn't. Honestly, I really didn't know. I was just like, like people need to dump toxic jobs. And I think it takes courage, and we have to fearlessly do it. And we have to find a way to skill up before we just, leave a job that, that we may need at the time. We have to get ready. And that's why it's called rebuild your personal brand and then fearlessly resign.
Right, right. Now, we all have heard the term or phrase, owning your career. What do you think think about that phrase when you hear it?
I think it means taking back career control. I think that a lot of us have put the career control in the ownership of the employer. And when I think about owning your career, to me, it means like, let me take back ownership of what I created. I have education, I have experience, and I have expertise and knowledge, and I should own the rights to that. That is my career intellectual property. But a lot of times we associate our personal brand with the employer's brand, and we give them the power to dictate how we're going to get promoted, how much money we're going to make, how we're going to navigate different corporate challenges. And when we have ownership, we have the right, just like, we think of celebrities, they own their music, they own their books, their movies, but they're able to navigate and negotiate different job offers for their next movie, for their next album, because they took ownership of the things that they've created. And I think that we have to take ownership of the things that we've accomplished within our careers. And we have to be okay with saying, this is mine. I'm at this job. This job is no longer serving me. Let me take what I own to another organization. And then I need to see if that organization is going to work out.
Right. I love that, career control. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is the generation, but allowing your career to be controlled by your employer. That's just not how we move forward and build these careers that we've always dreamed of. So I love that term, career control, and taking back that control, because we actually own it. We can decide to leave a job. We can apply to a new job. I think sometimes we get so bogged down into a company and a culture, we actually forget that.
Yeah, I mean, the power is completely in our hands. That's why I talk about in the book that we have to focus on getting money, power, and respect. And we need all three in order to be successful in this corporate world. We have to own that we can get the money we want, we can have the career power, and we can get the career respect at these organizations that sometimes don't respect, especially Black women.
Agreed. Now, speaking of that, leads me right into my next question. Currently, this is what media says. So I don't know this to be true, but currently there's a shortage of skilled workers, but many workers who are qualified to make more just do not negotiate their salary. Do you have any tips for earning what you're worth?
I think, negotiating your salary is something that has been a topic for years, years amongst career coaches, amongst other career thought leaders and authors and things like that. And it's funny that we constantly still have this conversation. This conversation probably has been going on for the last 5 years about salary negotiation. I think people don't negotiate their salary because it goes back to the fear factor. A lot of us are so validated by the job offer. We're validated that the interview just went well, but the job offer isn't well. It's not good. It's still, they still lowballed you. So for me, I think it's important, I guess I'm gonna speak, just because I'm in tech, and in the technology industry, there are a lot of there are Black employees and minority employees who just don't get a fair job offer against a non, Black person. So, I always encourage people to use tools to really figure out what the job offer should look like. And there's so many different tools like PayScale, like Glassdoor. So the first thing you want to do is look and research that particular job title and that particular area where the job is at, and really figure out if that is the right salary. And the second thing is to really focus in on evaluating what you bring to the table. How much years of experience do you have up against what the job description and job offer is stating? I like to encourage people to negotiate relocation, especially if they want to move to another state or another city. Also to negotiate working from home. That is a really popular trend right now, is people are negotiating working from home. Everybody wants to work from home, and now companies are trying to do this hybrid model where they're trying to say, hey, now the pandemic is over, COVID is here to stay, we want you to come in a couple of days per week. So, negotiating working from home, negotiating paid time off. People don't know that they can do that. Depending on the number of years of experience, if a company is giving you 6 hours per pay period, you may could negotiate 8 or 9 hours per pay period because you bring 10 years of experience to the table. That is another way for you to have more time off for yourself, more time off for sick leave, for vacation time, and things like that. And the last thing is negotiating training, negotiating self-development. Are you going to be walking into an organization that's going to be pouring back into you as much as you're pouring into them 40 hours a week? So negotiating a certification, exam fees, a master's degree, or maybe there's an annual training budget. Asking them, what is your annual training budget? How many thousands of dollars are you allocating to each employee? Because look, I'm here to get training, but I'm here to get training for this job and for the next job.
Right. Right. You said something I never thought of. I've never thought about negotiating PTO. Never even thought about that. If a company really wants you, they sometimes have rules where you have to be with the company for X amount of years before you get a higher, number of hours per pay period. But sometimes if you're fresh out of college, you may have to get the standard pay time off hours per pay period. But if you are mid-level or more senior employee, you can say, hey, I'm currently earning pay time off at my existing company, and I don't want to miss out on, getting rid of a certain amount of hours. So that's something that people don't do as much because they don't want to rock the boat. But it's really, sometimes companies want people so bad that they're willing to bend the rules. Yeah, I think that's good. Also, so our subscribers are from all walks of life, mid-level managers to beginners so I think this is so beneficial. But not just in race it's just women in all races. To me, we don't like to talk about money. and we talk about men making more than us. And again, I am not saying that there's a level playing field, and if we negotiated, we would get paid more than men. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that most time I talk to women, and I've done a lot of these interviews with other experts, we just do not come to the table wanting to talk about salary. We're just so happy to get the interview. We'll just take whatever. And even negotiating a couple of $1,000s more, the confidence that you get. I was one of those people that didn't negotiate. In the last few contracts that I've had, been able to negotiate, and just a couple of, let's $5,000 more gave me the confidence, right? To know how I can better negotiate next time. So anyone listening, please, Kanika's dropping some gems here, but we got to start talking about our money and knowing our worth. When we're showing up at these jobs, it's important that we're paid for the work that we do.
I think women don't negotiate their salary as much as men do, because it comes off as like we're being too bossed up. We don't want to seem like we're being a dominant player in this negotiation relationship. right? So I look at jobs like relationships. We're just happy that a man or a woman asked us to go on a date, which is the job interview.
Right.
And the fact that now he's like, hey, I want to be in a relationship with you. You're just happy to take whatever guy that came. You're not really even looking at the whole picture of, is this a relationship that I want to be in based upon what he brings to the table? See, the employer brings things to the table and you bring things to the table, but there has to be some alignment there. And men talk about money more than we do, even in business.
Right.
As an entrepreneur, it's been really hard for me to connect with other Black female entrepreneurs who want to talk about what they're making in their business. Women don't want to talk about what they're making even in their careers with their girlfriends. So if we don't talk about money when it comes to the corporate landscape, then we're not going to talk about money when it comes to, oh, you killing it in your business. Well, how are you doing that? We're scared to ask people, how they are doing that. And when we're at happy hour, we need to be having those type of conversations about money.
Agreed. I am quick to say how much I'm making on a contract, what I think contract should be, because sometimes you just don't know what you don't know.
Yep. And you may have burnout.
Yeah, I think I'm doing good. I'm like, yeah, this contract. And they're like, girl, that's nothing. My contracts are this. It makes you want to negotiate more.
Yeah. So we have to get out of our own way and stop being in competition with each other. And we have to be more collaborative.
Agreed. Now, I have had the great opportunity of having both a mentor and a sponsor in my life. Can you talk to us about the difference between a mentor versus a sponsor?
So a mentor is someone that really has this relationship with you that is really there for you behind the scenes to kind of help you grow. They're like your nurturing partner in this career journey. A mentor is someone that you can go to and talk to them about some of the things that you're dealing with when it comes to your career growth, navigating different environments, when it comes to even negotiating your salary, when it comes to looking at your resume, helping you prepare for job interviews. They are somebody, which I feel like I think a team of mentors is more important than just one mentor, because every mentor provides you some level of wisdom or knowledge in different areas. So I think it's important to find a mentor, but find a mentor that is has overcome the challenges that you are currently enduring within your current career journey. Whereas a sponsor is someone that I look at, someone at work or someone, who is speaking on your behalf when you're not in the room. They are really, endorsing you. When we think of sponsorship from a perspective of celebrities get sponsorships from companies, they get Beyonce may get a sponsorship or an endorsement deal from Adidas.
Right.
So somebody is speaking up, or Adidas was speaking up for her to say that I think Beyonce will be a great person to represent her clothing line and her fashion sense in our brand. A sponsor is an individual within the company that is willing to say, hey, Kanika is doing an amazing job. And I think that we should, look at her to get promoted, or Kanika should be, voted for this award. So somebody is sponsoring and endorsing you on your behalf when you have no idea.
Right. I love it. They're saying your name in rooms that you don't even know, right?
Yep.
I'm grateful to have the opportunity where I've had both in my life, and there's nothing like that sponsor, but that also comes with nurturing those relationships. That's why that quiet quitting, I'm going back to it. It's hard to nurture relationships when you're quiet quitting too. Like now, in the negative sense of quiet quitting, right?
Yes.
You've got, even in a virtual world, you've got to connect with people. You've got to be able to talk to people so they know who you are, so they can say your names in rooms. I think
that's a very good point. I didn't think about it like that. So quiet quitting could mean that you are, less engaged with building your professional network. Yeah.
You're not going to lunches. you're not doing the virtual happy hour
Yeah.
on the Zoom call, well, then
Yeah.
people don't know you.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And I talk about in the book, networking like a hustler. And I talk about that when networking is a two-way street. And when you're networking, you can't just be a taker. You have to be a giver too. And a lot of people don't understand that in networking, it's really about building and fostering healthy relationships. I can't just go to you and say, hey, can you help me get a new job? Hey, can you look at my resume? I have to also be in tune with what you need. You may need some help from me, or maybe I can help you with something that I see that you're struggling with, or give you some constructive feedback. So I think, when we talk about quiet quitting, you really got to be careful with that, because you could be missing out on not just receiving, but also giving to someone else.
Correct. And giving can be so many things. Like, I had a coworker, I know I heard her say throughout some of our text messages on Slack and things, that she listens to Audible. And I heard about a new app that allows you to listen to a book and read it. You can go back and forth, called Scribe. I sent it to her because there's no space that her and I will really work together. But she's an amazing resource at this company. So I sent her the app and said, hey, I heard you say you listen to audios. This could be a cool app. I just heard about it. That's another, things like that in the virtual world are the way that you can still connect to people.
Yes.
But again, if we go to a space where we're only doing our job, we clock out at 5, we don't do the extra stuff, then people don't get to build those relationships with you.
I agree. That's a really great point.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I'm telling you, you dropped some gems, even for myself. I'm going to reread the book. Just because, yes, when I read the book, it was before pandemic. Now life has shifted, and the things that we look for in jobs are different. I will be honest, looking at culture was not really part of my research of a company. What does the culture look like? Now I ask, how in an interview, what did you do as accommodations for your team and for your employees during the pandemic?
It's very important.
That tells me a lot about a company.
It does. It does. It's very important. Culture is at the top of my list of, so when I have my must-haves, I would take a really good culture first, and I would possibly take a pay cut for that. So priceless. I've been in so many bad, toxic relationships with jobs that have made me depressed, anxious, that have made me really stressed out. So for me, being in a healthy relationship with an employer is at the top of my list, because I know that every day I wake up, I'm gonna feel good about showing up.
Agreed.
Remote or in office.
It's gonna cost you more anyway, even if you take a pay cut, because someone listening said, "Ooh, a pay cut." But even if you take a pay cut for a better culture, it's going to cost you more if you're in a toxic culture. You're hanging out more.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to cost you where you're drinking more, you're waking up in the morning saying, ooh, I don't need a drink. It's not even 10 a.m. You're going to be in the doctor office more, because now you constantly going back because you're dealing with burnout, you're breaking down physically, mentally, and spiritually. So when I say pay cut, I'm not saying cut your salary in half. Right. I'm just saying, hey, if I can't get that extra 10,000, but the culture is phenomenal, the diversity inclusion is on point, the leadership looks like a rainbow of people, then maybe I need to reconsider. So I just think you have to know what you're doing and why you're doing at that point in your career, because all of us have different expectations for what we want out of a job offer and out of an employer at a specific time in our life. And as we evolve and grow, our expectations, they change.
Agreed. Well, Kanika, thank you so much for being with us today. Please tell our subscribers how they can find you.
So you guys can find me on all social media platforms at Kanika Tolver. So I'm on Twitter most of the time, LinkedIn, is my second favorite social media platform, but Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. I've spent a lot of time doing audio rooms. So some of the topics that we talked about today, I do host audio rooms on Twitter Spaces. You can find me at kanikatolver.com. So if you are interested in my products and services, you can go to kanikatolver.com. And if you are interested in booking me to speak, you can go to kanikatolver.com as well. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I hope you guys will, continue to read Career Rehab and tell others to purchase Career Rehab where all books are sold.
Yes, so all our subscribers for this month receive your book. We'll be having a discussion in our Facebook group about it. Again, such great gems. I'm gonna reread it because it's definitely time for me to have my own rehab. Now,
Yeah, definitely. Let me know if you want me to come to the Facebook group. Maybe we could, have a book club session.
yes, that will be awesome. Now, do you have any new projects or anything that you would like to share with our group?
No, I really don't have any new projects. I'm working on some new things, working on some new fresh content for next year. But, I just really am more focused about building more online communities and building more relationships with people who are checking themselves into career rehab. Sometimes I gotta check myself back into career rehab. It's not a one-stop shop. I think it's an evolution. I think every once in a while, I gotta go back and read the book, even for myself, so I don't have any projects going on right now, but I definitely will keep you guys posted when we launch Career Rehab Academy in the future, and when we have like master classes and webinars and things like that next year. So just stay tuned for those type of online events.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Well, I'm sure we'll have you back. We had rave reviews last time, and I'm sure we will have them again. Now, for our subscribers, Kanika's information will be down below in the comments area, in the description area. So again, thank you so much, Kanika, and talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.